All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talkin Ball Postgame Live with Pat Leonard. Thank you for your patience. I caught Saquon Barkley alone at his locker in the visitors' locker room of MetLife Stadium. Much different, of course, through the years, the face of the franchise of the New York Giants. In the visitors' locker room, dressing with the Philadelphia Eagles, that Eagle green, still getting used to seeing number 26 in it, but a smile on his face and turning the page completely now for good on his Giants career. That was what I talked to him about. I asked Saquon Barkley about what it was like doing this to the Giants, specifically to the organization, the front office that considered him expendable and let him walk to the Giants, biggest rival. And here's what Saquon Barkley told me. He said, it's not about doing it to them. It's not about that. The beauty of it is I feel like that monkey is off my back. I think it's the last time I've got to talk about the Giants. You feel me? And not in a negative way. I've got nothing but love for them. But even still, anytime I do a media thing, the Giants are still brought up. And I'm like, I haven't played. I'm not on the Giants anymore. So it's like I feel like I got over that now. I feel like I'm finally a Philadelphia Eagle. I got over the booze. I came here. I conquered that. Whether we won or lost, that was going to be my mindset. It's like at least that part is over. Also talked to him about Daniel Jones getting benched. And interestingly, Saquon said that Daniel Jones getting benched sucks, but he said the boos for him suck too. He did not like seeing the way the crowd treated Daniel Jones. And obviously, as we sit here, the Eagles just boat raced and embarrassed the New York Giants. And Brian Daboll benched Daniel Jones at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Daboll seeing he's still the quarterback for the franchise, but obviously everything is teetering here because that was a ripcord that once Brian Daboll pulled, he only gets once, and that is the move and the action of a head coach who is on the hot seat, a head coach who might even be showing us his last gasp after an offense goes for only 119 total yards, the lowest total since 1999. In a game for a Giants team. Absolutely embarrassing. No other way around it. But I talked to Saquon Barkley about that and about seeing Daniel Jones get benched, and he said he didn't like the boos. He said fans don't get it. They give us a hard time. We know sometimes the games don't go the way that we would like. But he works his ass off, and he'll do anything for the organization to try to win a Super Bowl. Likewise, when I was there. They're a good team, and games sometimes aren't going the way they want to go. He said, I know the fans are over it and the fans are tired of the BS and the same old stuff, but it's sad. And this is a really interesting quote. He said, because there's guys who don't care in this league and there's guys who do care. And he, meaning Daniel Jones, is one of those guys. So it sucks to see that, but he'll shake back. But open question right now, will the Giants shake back? Will Daniel Jones shake back? Because frankly, Daniel Jones obviously not pleased, said it wasn't much of a conversation with Brian Daboll about the benching, just said he was going to go with Drew, looking for a spark. That was about it. He said, Daboll, it's his team and up to him to make those decisions in the future. I believe in myself and this offense, so I'm just going to focus on myself. But Daboll has bigger problems even than just his offense, right? He's got Deonte Banks quitting on a Jalen Hurts run. Jalen Hurts scrambling to the right sideline and Deonte Banks quitting for the second time on the field in 4 games. And he admitted that's what happened. Deonte Banks told me and Daryl Slater of NJ.com, he said, I really thought he was going to slide or whatever, but it was a bad play by me, bad effort play by me. I think I could have made it. I play this game because I love this shit. Sometimes you get frustrated out there when shit's not going your way. That's me just letting the emotions get the best of me. But Jerome Henderson, the defensive backs coach, was going wild on Banks on the sideline right when he saw it. Like, what the heck was happening? But Daboll left Banks in the game, just like he did against the Cowboys, and really wouldn't address it much afterwards. He said, we'll take a look at all that stuff, and whatever we need to address, we'll address. But the guys are putting effort into each week and every week. I'm not going to get into the sideline or coaching part of it. This is basically the meme of the dog sitting in the room with the room burning. This is exactly what we're looking at here with Brian Daboll making comments like that. Ridiculous, embarrassing. Obviously, nothing looks worse, though, as bad as Deonte Banks' effort was on that play. Joe Schoen's decision to let Saquon Barkley go to the Eagles is worse, because we know what John Mara said. We know what John Mara wanted. Obviously, John Mara still let it happen, so he's still on the hook for it happening. And the product on the field is what he has made and what his hiring of Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll has brought. But, I mean, geez, this team 0-3 in the NFC East this season, 0-4 at home, 1-10-0 in 11 games against the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys since Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll took over. Philadelphia goes for 269 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 6.0 yards per carry on 45 runs. Saquon with 55, 41, and 38-yard rushes, an absolute decimation of the Giants. Joe Schoen famously saying to Tim McDonnell of the Giants in Hard Knocks, we're going to upgrade the offensive line, and you're paying the guy, meaning Jones, $40 million. It's not to hand the ball off to a $12 million back. Meanwhile, the Giants lose to the Eagles because the Eagles' $40 million quarterback was handing off to their $12.5 million running back in Barkley. The Giants going nowhere fast. They have 1 touchdown at home in 4 games at MetLife Stadium. Saquon Barkley with 187 yards and a touchdown, while the Giants as a team with 119 yards total on offense. Drew Lock comes in and the offense for 4 drives. I told you all this. I told you. I know you guys don't want to believe it because it's frustrating, but everyone's saying bench Daniel Jones for Drew Lock. It's not going to look better. 15 total yards on 12 plays for the offense on 4 drives, with Drew Lock put in a tough situation in the game. Daboll with no answer when I asked him why not consider changing the offensive line first. Josh Azudu obviously overmatched at left tackle, and yet instead of changing the offensive line, you're benching Daniel Jones. Well, the bottom line is this, and this is one where I wouldn't defend Daboll on this, but what I would say is the problem there is that Joe Schoen on a personnel side comes out of last season with Josh Azudu as his top backup tackle option and does not change that dynamic, does not draft a swing tackle, does not add to that. Of course, he had a lot to add to the offensive line. You know why? Because he didn't build it well enough in the first place when he got here. His 3 draft picks in his first draft, Marcus McKeithen, no longer on the team. Josh Azudu, nice guy, not a good player. Evan Neal, number 7 overall pick, and this team will not put him on the field, even in a game when they are hemorrhaging sacks, 7 sacks of Daniel Jones. Daniel, obviously, in this game, lost confidence in the offensive line. Now, he did miss a throw over the middle to Darius Slayton that he should have hit. That was a play that Daniel Jones should have made. Obviously, there were some plays he could have made that he didn't. Too much underneath to Wan'Dale Robinson, et cetera, et cetera. But he did not have much of a chance today. The plan wasn't good. The roster isn't good enough. Patrick says hit that sub and like button. We are rolling here on Talkin Ball Postgame live with Pat Leonard. For anybody who was wondering why I asked Brian Daboll in week 2 if he was concerned about his job, this is why, because this is the Giants. They are a team that gets hurt. They lose key players to injury because they get hurt every year, and the right people don't get blamed and held accountable. They are a team that makes bad hires and doesn't draft well enough, and they are a team that every year John Mara is sitting here looking at the product saying, what's wrong? How did we get here? That's why I predicted them to go 4-13 this year, and I asked Brian Daboll in week 2 if he was concerned about his job, because now we are looking at exactly the scenario I told you guys was possible with this roster and with this coach and with this team. This Giants team is unacceptable. This effort is unacceptable. This offensive output from a guy who got hired because he was an offensive coordinator and his offense was doing well in Buffalo is unacceptable. People love to make Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, these guys the brunt of jokes of how bad it was. How bad is this? How about what you're watching on the field right now? This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Anybody who is a Giants fan who watches this and wants to go to the next game, man, I give you a tip of the cap. I guess maybe it's fun to go and tailgate in the parking lot, right? But on that note, we're going to get into the comments to the questions. I see a lot of super chats in the queue. We will go to the super chats first. Patrick reminds you to hit that sub and like button. This is the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard post-game live on the PL on NFL YouTube channel and courtesy of the Believe Network. We are hosted on the Believe Network. That is where the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard podcast lives. Hope you caught our great preview podcast of this game with the one and only Sal Paolantonio, Sal Pal from ESPN. Also, First Down with Benny Fowler will be coming on Monday, recapping Week 7 across the NFL. But I definitely hope you guys use some of my picks with MyBookie, because MyBookie sponsors us here on Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. And we are rolling out the red carpet at MyBookie for sports bettors in their 10th year anniversary. Pat's picks is rolling. Some of our game picks have already hit. Jalen Hurts anytime TD, that one hit. And, hopefully you guys continue to use some of this advice, make some money, have some fun watching your favorite sport and these games. But Pat's Picks is the promo code that you should enter when you sign up. So when you go to mybookie.ag, click on the link in any of my social media profiles. When you get there, use the promo code Pat's Picks and get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. If you're already a MyBookie member, you can join their new loyalty rewards program. It's called MyBookie Plus. And if you go there, you can unlock exclusive giveaways, promotions, cash back in your account. Make this football season a winning season with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also brought to you by, as you see on the screen, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. Boom Chaga is a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. Personally, I felt post-workout like energy boosts with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. Use the code TalkinBall25 or the QR code on your screen and go to the subscribe and save order, and you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. So that means a month supply costs you only $30. You will not be locked into a subscription for several months, anything like that. So you can stay a subscriber, get that discount initially, or you can sign up, subscribe and save, use the code, get the discount, and then cancel the subscription. But I do believe once you try the product, you will like it and stay subscribed. So boomchaga.com today. Feel the difference. Talking Ball 25. Also, Estate 98 Coffee, a sponsor here as well. Estate 98 Coffee is an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar. Convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Takes me 10 seconds to make an Estate 98 iced coffee. It's delicious, and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte. Go use the link estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal today. All right, we are rolling in the chat. Candyman gets us started. He says, disgusting. Pat, what would you do if you were John Mara? Well, I did hang around to see if I could get John Mara to talk to him after this game. Did not see him leave the box that he watches the game in. I was watching from about early in the fourth quarter all the way through the end of the game to about 10 minutes after the game, and he never came out. That leads me to believe he may have already been downstairs. I did see Tim McDonald, his nephew, the director of player personnel, leave fairly early in the fourth quarter, did not speak, was not approached, obviously. But John Mara, no comment to me after this game. If I were him, I have believed all the way since the start of this season that both the GM and head coach's jobs were on the line. And I think this result, and it's the combination of Barkley and everything he did, of letting that player go, of the Giants watching that player, the face of their franchise, embarrass them in their stadium in the same game that Brian Daboll benches Daniel Jones and then pretends everything's fine at the podium when players are quitting on the field. To me, a firing is coming. I don't know if it's coming tonight. I don't know if it's coming tomorrow, but I think firings are on the horizon. I don't think this is going anywhere fast. And I think we're looking at turnover coming sooner than later with the Giants. That would be, if you're asking me what I would do if I were John Mara. All right, let's get to some more super chats, and then I will get back into the top of the queue. I appreciate everybody purchasing these super chats. Guys, if you're going to subscribe, please, to the page, You'll get notifications when we go live as well. Hit the like button, as Patrick said earlier, while we are live. The likes while we are live really helps engagement and drives engagement here on the page, on the YouTube channel, and on the podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, I appreciate it. Thank you. Please rate, review, and subscribe. But also, please join us live on YouTube next time if you can, whether it's post-game on Sundays or during the week. We've been changing up days for when we do Talkin Ball Live during the week because of the baseball playoffs. Obviously, really exciting. Yankees being in the World Series. Mets trying to get there too. Subway Series would be great. But so the nights during the week have been irregular, but we're always post-game live with the Giants. We're going to do some more creator series soon. And, of course, the Talkin Ball Lives will be rolling, the regular podcast rolling as well. But if you're going to support us, these super chats like Candyman just did and like Joel did here, those are great ways to support us. Thank you so much. And if you're not doing that, I would say Boom Chaga, MyBookie, and Estate 98. Even if you just give any of those products a try, MyBookie, Boom Chaga, and Estate 98, it's a great way to support the podcast, the best way to support the podcast. And thank you so much, guys. All right. Joel says, Pat, when is the media going to push hard on not Daboll on the whole Josh left tackle experiment that he is just not good? Forget the rest of the issues. I feel like I have pushed on that, Joel. I think, whatever I have said and commented on as far as the ineffectiveness of Zudu at left tackle, they're still doing it anyway. So I do feel like we're putting out there that this is ridiculous and it can't continue. But this is just what they insist on doing. This is the Giants' preferred mode of operation. This is their stubbornness. It's their unwillingness to admit they're wrong. It's their lack of accountability. But trust me, here is what I'm trying always to stress to you guys when we are talking about these issues on these podcasts. Internally, even though the Giants struggle sometimes to accurately evaluate their own players and themselves, they are very aware watching Josh Zudu at tackle right now that he can't do it. Like, in other words, what I mean is, you really think Steve Tisch watched this game and John Mara watched this game and said Josh Zudu did a good job at tackle? Man, I would hope not. To me, that's a Shane decision. That's a Brian Daboll decision. That's what that is. And by the way, let me just say something about this too. I am tired of watching people, national media members, people coming in with cheap shots at Daniel Jones out of nowhere during these games. Listen, Daniel Jones has his own flaws for sure. They were looking to replace him already. They're going to replace him next year, right? One way or another, probably. But this cherry picking from people who don't cover this team on a regular basis of saying it's all Daniel Jones and taking pot shots at Daniel Jones nationally, while there's a zillion things going wrong. They're not running the ball without their franchise left tackle on the field. They're not protecting their quarterback. The play calling stinks from the head coach who was yo-yoing it back and forth and pointing fingers at coaches last year like it wasn't his fault. And, it's just the quarterback. Let's give the GM and the head coach another 5 years to figure it out, and then we'll see how it goes. I just love these people who want to just slap around at a quarterback when someone in an organization tells them to give them the go-ahead, and they actually don't have any insight on what's going on with the team. They just want to preserve their relationships. All right, I'm off my soapbox. All right, so let's see. Chris says, I am tired of how hard worker Jones is. He's just not good enough. No, listen, results are what matter. And Daniel Jones even said it himself. He had a really good quote. I asked him whether he thought it was fair that things would get pinned on him. And Daniel Jones basically said, in so many words, he said, I'm the quarterback. Football is a team game, but as the quarterback, I take responsibility for trying to get the offense to play better. And so I'm going to look at myself first. So he's still being accountable for that. Daniel Jones himself is not sitting there saying that everything is fine. And that's certainly not what I am saying. But I think all the people clamoring for Drew Lock, for example, to come into the game, I hope you watched when he came into the game what it looked like. And I'm not dumping on Drew Lock here, but I'm saying that Daniel Jones is their best option at quarterback. That's a roster issue. You know what I'm saying? John, what's up? And Chris, thank you for that super chat. John says, Dable seems like he lost the team. Neighbors still doesn't line up correctly, meaning he doesn't care. Daniel is always guiding him to the correct spot. Other receivers are dropping everything. Defense can't tackle. Yes, it's coming apart at the seams, John. I'm glad you see it. I see it too. Dable's pretending at the podium like everything is fine. Obviously, we see it is not throughout. That's an interesting observation you made about Neighbors there. I'd actually heard something a couple of weeks ago that some teammates have had to be out there consistently guiding him on things like that. Like as far as where to line up, certain play calls, that type of stuff. I do like Malik. Like I think he tries. I think he has been misunderstood. He's treated like he's a wild card who doesn't care on social media. That's not what I've seen. Like I think he's 21. He's very young, but I from what I see, he tries to say and do the right thing. I mean, that's what I've seen from him, so I can only go on that. But what you did point out about on the field, the needing guidance to line up in a certain spot, needing some help in that, I have heard that off the record prior to this. So that's really perceptive of you, John. And then, yeah, listen, let's just take a step back here and look at, like, Shane Bowen deserved credit when the defense was playing well. Shane Bowen, Andre Patterson, the defensive line coach, what a ridiculously pathetic performance by the defensive front of the New York Giants today. Brian Burns gutting it out clearly through a groin injury. Dexter Lawrence playing through a hip injury. I understand guys are playing with things, and I empathize, I sympathize, and particularly with Burns, you could see he could barely walk, and then he comes back into the game, and he's still playing. I admire Brian Burns. And Dexter Lawrence is trying his best, but they got shoved around, pushed around. At one point in this game, they were allowing like nine yards a carry and then 7 yards a carry, and ends up at 6 as the game winds down. But what an ass kicking this was. What an ass kicking. And yeah, the effort, it showed up with Deonte Banks most prominently, but holy cow, talk about getting just raked across a football field. D-Kit says, Pat, were there any Joe Shane sightings? Then will he be available for questions? Can a performance like this go unaddressed by the Giant brass? No, it cannot. I mean, yes, I did see Joe walking out of the box where he and some of the brass were watching the game. He did not comment. I did not ask for comment. There were a few reporters there. We did not ask him for comment. Did make some eye contact. I don't know if he wanted to say something or not, but typically that's not the place to approach right after the game a GM in that regard, unless he indicates he's willing and wants to, generally. So that's kind of like standard how we usually do it. He typically talks at the bye week. So that's something to look for there at the bye week. But absolutely, I mean, this is a complete tire fire. I mean, I hope nobody from the Giants on the coaching staff or in the front office is anywhere but in the building in their offices. I mean, I can't imagine what John Mara and Steve Tisher are saying right now. Actually, I probably can imagine it. T-Rex, thank you. D-Kid, thanks, man. T-Rex says, how does the conversation go between Joe Shane and John Mara after Barkley's performance today? Well, I think the conversation has to go something like this from John. I think the conversation has to be, Joe, we had this conversation. You told me it was going to go a certain way. I don't see it going that way. How are we going to turn this around? What is your plan for making this look different than what I saw on the field today? How are we going to save face? How are we going to find our new franchise quarterback? Now that we benched Daniel Jones, now it's solidified for them that we're over him, that we're past him, that we're moving on. How do we put him back in the game? Dable said we're putting him back in the game. So can we just do that? Why would we put him right back in the game if we're showing no confidence in him? Why did we not change the offensive line before we benched the quarterback? Why was Josh Azudu our first replacement option when Andrew Thomas went down for a second straight year? How come our head coach can't operate a functional offense when he loses one player from it to injury? I mean, this is everything. I mean, this is everything. Elias says, Pat, you're fired up. Yeah, this is bad. What's worse, Joe Shane may not sell at the deadline if he doesn't have job security, so hard to trade up for a quarterback. Yeah, if he gets to that point. Chris says, why have they given up on Evan Neal? Well, clearly they feel like he can't play. If they had any confidence in his ability to play, they would give him a shot to play. I think it's just because every time he's on the field and he struggles, it solidifies and reminds everybody what kind of drafting they've done here. That's what I think. Daniel says, I also blame Brian Daboll for Neighbors' concussion. More evidence he is incompetent. They did overwork him in that game. I mean, you're not trying to concuss your best player. So, I mean, I'm not going to go there. But certainly that reflects, I think, their plan was just feed Malik. And then it got to the point where Daniel Jones was asking was essentially just forcing the ball to him on plays where he was taking big hits regardless. Wan'Dale Robinson took a bunch of those. But yeah, lack of creativity in the play calling. FYI, I see some of your comments. I've seen them throughout these last few weeks about me trying to make these post-game lives look more professional in this setting on camera. I understand what you're saying. So we're continuing to build this here on Talkin Ball Postgame Live with Pat Leonard and on the podcast in general. At home, I have the whole setup. Here, like I'm not a self-sustaining television station yet or anything like that. So the production quality of what I'm bringing to you video-wise post-game has not been my initial priority. My initial priority is just getting it up here, getting it on, making sure we're talking, that you can see me, you can see I'm here at the stadium, and that I can produce immediate live reactions from the locker room, from the coaches and the players. I was in the Eagles locker room talking to Saquon. I saw a guy named Gates today, saw Paris Campbell, was also in the Giants locker room talking to Deonte Banks, Daniel Jones, and listening into a few conversations there. But I promise you, just for those of you who keep saying something, as more support comes in for the podcast, and it continues to come in, the channel has grown, the podcast continues to grow, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. But as it grows, that enables me to put more into the production quality of this, right? So that's where we're headed. We're headed in that direction. Who knows? Maybe a year from now, I'll be able to do a sit down on the field after the game instead of sitting in here in the press box. And we'll have a backdrop. We'll have better microphones. We'll have all kinds of stuff. We'll have a co-host, whatever it is. I'll continue to bring it all to you guys. I love doing this. But so I understand what you're saying. I will take some steps in future weeks to improve the production video quality of it for you. Don't worry. And we'll get there. But I think the important thing is to understand the content of what I'm telling you and saying is what I'm really trying to bring you. The analysis, the insight into what these guys are telling me directly face-to-face in the locker room, and the takeaways for what it means for this team overall. D-Kid says, let me make something perfectly clear. This is a complete and utter failure by the front office and coaching staff, first and foremost, period. No doubt about it. Well said. Bombo says, thanks for always keeping it real. I was a coach judge guy myself. Never felt like he really had a fair shake. Hope we get a real CEO-style head coach. Bill Belichick, maybe. Love the passion today. I like Joe Judge too. Obviously, Joe Judge, once he fired Jason Garrett, did not have the offensive chops to run that offense the way that he needed to get it to that third season. But I feel like he was a good CEO. I think if he had a good offensive coordinator who he was able to bring in with him, and it wasn't him and Jason Garrett who were oil and water. And after his first season, they should have let Dave Gettleman walk off into the sunset and marry Judge with a general manager who saw eye to eye with him, where they were on the same page and working and collaborating as a unit. Like all of these passive aggressive or aggressive comments by the Giants since Judge's firing about how collaborative everything is with Joe Shane and Brian Daboll finally coming off what we had last time. What you had last time was because you hired Joe Judge and paired him with a terrible general manager in Dave Gettleman, who either didn't know what he was doing or didn't work hard enough if we're going to be honest with everybody about this. And Joe Judge was done with it, so he tried to run it all himself. That's what happened. So you created that dynamic. You created that dysfunctional dynamic, and then everything's on the coach's shoulders, and then he tries to take on too much, and it kind of all crumbles around, right? So that's what happened. So that this stuff all goes up to ownership. It all has to do with the whole organization. They always love to dump on people once they're gone from here. After they tell you, when you're criticizing everything in the moment, they say everything's fine, and you're a jackass for saying otherwise. And then once they fire everybody, now it's okay to say all these bad things about these people and to damage their reputations to clean up the organization's own. Woo! I'm fired up here. Enough of this bullshit. All right. Scorpio says, Daboll should give up play calling and Shane should not draft anyone next year. Daniel Jones doesn't hit guys in stride. Neighbors takes plays off. Yeah, Daboll taking play calling away, now giving it up. The problem is he's never shown himself to be a very good game manager. And honestly, serious question here. What is with the lack of a consistent approach to game management? Like, this is nothing new, but Brian Daboll last week against the Cincinnati Bengals, he's punting on these fourth downs and under 5, 4th and 5, whatever, around midfield in the first half. In the second half, after getting shut out in the first half, he starts going for all these first downs. And after the game, he's like, yeah, we talked all week about how we were going to be aggressive. No, you weren't aggressive in the first half. You were aggressive only in the second half after you pressed the eject button after a scoreless first half, right? So then they come into this game, and early on against the Eagles, I want to make sure I get these numbers right. The Giants get to 4th and 3 on the Eagles' 45, and they punt the ball. What are we doing? 4th and 3 on the Eagles' 45, punting the ball? And then, what do you know? Nick Sirianni goes for a 4th and short in a similar area. Touchdown to A.J. Brown. I mean, this is why teams win and lose. Make a decision about how you're going to approach. Nick Sirianni has caught more heat as a coach than probably anybody in the league in the last week, and he coached the pants off Brian Daboll in this game. Who's he going to give up play calling to? Joel says, have the odds jumped up on Belichick joining us as the new head coach? I think Belichick's only joining the Giants if the whole dynamic changes with the power structure, people in the organization, personnel. Like, he's not just showing up to the Giants as they're currently constructed and taking the job. That's not what this is. Lou says, Pat, is this season over at this point? Yes, it is. Patrick Evans says, Pat, I love the passion. I feel the same way about all of this. I was saying Daniel needs to go, but I think Daboll and Shane. He let the franchise go, letting Saquon go, didn't re-sign Xavier McKinney. This team is garbage. It is garbage. Patrick said, thank you. Thank you for that, Patrick. Really appreciate that contribution. $20 there to the channel and to the chat. Thank you so much. Really, really, genuinely, I don't take anything for granted here. And I'm fired up because, I'm trying to articulate really just how exhausting it is, I think. First of all, I think I speak for all of you guys when I'm talking about this type of frustration of the same things going wrong and what's bothering me and what I see and what's not changing and what needs to change. It's extremely frustrating, but I just feel like also when you say week after week, month after month, or for a full year or for several years about a certain regime or certain decisions, this is what's happening and this is where it's going and it has to stop and this is what needs to change. And then everything comes to pass and those things don't happen and the corrections were always there to be made. And the organization says that people like me are crazy and negative and have an agenda for saying those things. And you have all these national reporters trying to clean things up for general managers and organizations. I'm not anti anybody and I'm not pro anybody. What I am is trying to decipher and tell the story for you. That's what I want to do. So like I said, when I'm watching Brian Burns barely be able to walk off the field and then come back and gut it out, hey, credit to Brian Burns, man. He's tough. That's great. When I see Deontay Banks quit on a play, I say, first of all, initially I say, is he injured or did he actually quit? So I want to ask those questions after the game. Turns out he did quit on the play, and he talks about that, right? So being fair, asking the hard questions, and also digging into talks with sources and conversations about what's really going on, who's impressing, where are the concerns on the roster, what are the problems that aren't addressed, talking to people around the league about that. This is all information. It's not agenda driven. It's not narrative driven. It's a red herring for people to be blaming the media for issues that are actually going on in these buildings. The bottom line is there are most of the people who cover the NFL and who are in the NFL love to not put their necks on the line and stick their heads out and actually take a stand on something. And then when the firings happen, when the decisions are made, when the results come in, everybody says, yeah, I saw that coming. Yeah, I was having a conversation the other day where I told someone about that. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You were waiting to see which way the wind was blowing, and then you jumped on. Well, I have news for you guys, and I'm not putting anyone else down, but I'm telling you what I do here and what I always will do here on this podcast, on this channel, on Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard Live, is I will keep it real for you, and I will tell you, regardless of the consequences for me, what I believe the truth is. I will give you my honest analysis, and I will not hold back. I promise you that. Patrick, that $20 investment got me fired up. Thank you. Patrick also says, why aren't they using Theo Johnson? Too much throwing. This is why we got rid of Saquon. Get rid of these guys. Yeah, they tried to throw him eventually in the red zone. He pushed off too much there, which initially I was not I didn't know whether or not that was a real penalty or not. I was waiting for the analysis of it. Mark Sanchez in the moment said he felt like that was a push off and an overt one, essentially that you're coached to do it with your lower body and not upper body on a guy's shoulder to push off and then square, because every time they'll call it and that's how they coach it. So Daniel says, would be funny if Dable's weight loss was Ozempic and Pilates was a lie. I am not going to go there, not making this personal. That's the thing. This is not personal. This is about good football, bad football, good operations, bad operations, right? That's how I see this. All right, let's get back into the queue. Thank you, everybody, for all those super chats there. We have Candyman, Joel, Chris, John, D-Kit, T-Rex, Elias, Chris, Daniel, D-Kit, Bombo, Scorpio, Joel, Lou, Patrick again, and Daniel again, jumping in the fray. Thank you so much for all those super chats. We are going to keep it rolling here in the normal queue on Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard. If other Talkin Ball super chats come in on the channel while we are talking, I will go right to you. Make sure you stay tuned as well for the Estate 98 trivia, because we will do an Estate 98 Giants trivia question. And when we do that, the first correct answer in the queue, in the comment section, will win a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. So when I tell you guys that's coming, it will be Estate 98 trivia, and I will give you a question. And when I give you that question, the first person to enter the correct comment in the comment section in the chat will win a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. It's basically a half a month worth of iced coffee. And once you win, you will direct message me on Instagram your address, and I will have it sent out to you. All right. Barbara says, what's the purpose of having neighbors when they had a chance for a quarterback? But don't worry, the Giants will overpay for a quarterback. Now even Gettleman was better than Shane. Listen, Barbara, you actually are making the point that Joe Shane's son made in Hard Knocks, where he said about Jaden Daniels, he said, you might as well go for it, go for everything and try to win. You're only going to have this job once. I think that's what you're saying there, Barbara, which is if you think you need a quarterback, if you know you need a quarterback, go get a quarterback, right? That's exactly what you're saying there. All right. Patrick says Daniel Jones needs to go. Manzo says the Jones era is officially over. Now it looks like Daboll will be following him out the door. Chronicle says, right when I thought the pain couldn't get any worse. Andre says, Pat, look at that Hurts scramble at the beginning of the fourth. Deontay Banks is hot dogging it again. He let Hurts run right by him. Yes, he did, Andre. And I talked about this after the game, and I actually talked to Deontay Banks, and he told me and Daryl Slater of NJ.com at his locker, he said, I really just thought he was going to slide or whatever, but it was a bad play by me, bad effort play by me. I think I could have made it. I play this game because I love this shit. Sometimes you get frustrated out there when shit's not going your way. That's me just letting the emotions get the best of me. So you're absolutely right. That's what happened. Deontay Banks owning up to it. Timothy says, do not watch them on TV. Do not go to the games. It's time Mara knows we are done with this horrible product. That is what John Mara listens to most of all. That's what his father, Wellington, listened to most of all, which was the fans. George says somebody's getting fired. I do think that's a fair takeaway coming off of this game is something. I would not be surprised if something big happens. I don't have any information on that just yet. Manzo says, who are the possible free agent quarterbacks we could be looking at for next year in case we have the same draft scenario as this past draft? Oh, geez. Manzo, my mind is not there right now, but let me take a look real quick here. Let's see. Free agent quarterbacks for 2025. We got Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Jacoby Brissett, Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco, Tyler Huntley, Mason Rudolph, Tim Boyle, Cooper Rush, Mac Jones, Taylor Heineke, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so that's what I got for you here. Sorry about that list. Barbara says Daboll needs to go. Azudu in at left tackle. Why? O-line still stinks. No quarterback is going to be good. Time for a new coach. Call Bill. That's a great question on Azudu. It's because they did not address that position. Yeah, no, I mean, the other thing was like Azudu really struggled early. I believe gave up 2 sacks out of the gate. And then I think you saw Daniel Jones not trusting his protection. And then the protection was just kind of crumbling around him. I mean, the pressure was coming from all sides. This was the Giants' offensive line regressing to a point really we hadn't seen yet this year for the most part. Let's see. Oh, did I go 3-0 on Pat's picks this week? So we have, let's see, Washington covers, Buffalo covers, Chiefs cover. 3-0 on Pat's picks this week, making you guys money if you played those Pat's picks. 3-0. 3-0. Not to mention, even though the neighbors' yards didn't hit and my Saquon Barkley 2 touchdown didn't hit, the Jalen Hurts anytime TD hit as well. So 3-0 on the games, Jalen Hurts anytime TD. Let's go. Matt says losses are one thing, not being competitive is another. That is correct, Matt. Ken says very concerned with Neighbors' post-game demeanor as he already seems fed up. Kept saying his job is to get open and was something to monitor. Definitely. Thank you, Ken, for noting that. Yeah. Let's see. Malik Neighbors, noteworthy comments from Neighbors. Don't have those quotes in front of me just yet. But very good point about something to monitor there. Especially he had a route down the left sideline that Mark Sanchez said on the broadcast he thought he should have kind of run out and finished out that he didn't. So that was interesting. Let's see. Barbara says Daboll needs to go. Even when Daniel Jones throws a touchdown, it's called back. That's on coaching. Drops over and over. Obviously, no jugs machine work. So over this team being unprepared. All right, let's get to the Estate 98 trivia now. This is a Giants trivia question. The first person to get the answer will win a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a Giants trivia question, and the first person to answer it will get a free bottle. Ready? Here it goes. The Giants had only 119 yards of offense today, the fewest under Brian Daboll by 31 yards. They had 150 at San Francisco last season on September 21st. But when is the last time the Giants had 119 or fewer yards in a game? I need the opponent and the year. The opponent and the year that they had 119 or fewer offensive yards. George Lewis says, I think the team quit on Daboll. Barbara says, give me Belichick. Joel says, the question is, how did you let Barkley run all over you as a defense? I don't care who else beats us in this game, but you let Barkley beat you that bad. That's embarrassing. Oh, this was just an embarrassment of epic proportions. Eric says, how likely is it that we have an entire new regime and quarterback next season? I don't know how many times I can say this stat, but I feel like it's under discussed, and it really is an important one. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are 1-10-0 in 11 games against the Cowboys and Eagles. Let me say that again. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll's record in 11 games against the Cowboys and Giants, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll's record in 11 games against the Eagles and Cowboys is 1-10-0. What are we doing here? Alex says, I would fire Daboll tonight. Alex says he lost the team and it's over. VF says, new people would again go after Daniel Jones, and that's stupid. Giants number 2 in the league, dropping catches, no run game, no protection, and he keeps taking hits after hits. And stupid people here keep blaming Daniel Jones. Dave says, today was on Daboll. Too many long developing pass routes when the line clearly couldn't hold up. Azudu with help was still a turnstile. That's when you switch to the quick passing game, no doubt. Dave Z says Daniel Jones can't hit a deep passing play. VF says Neighbors wasn't even running on that play. Dave Z says the deep balls are 10 yards over guys' heads or short, talking all season. And I agree with this, as Dave says, Daniel Jones wasn't the problem today, but he still can't hit the deep ball. Yes, I think both of those are fair. Elias says we have to be sellers at the deadline. Trade Ojulari, Slayton, I don't care. Load up to trade for the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you could be buyers, that's for sure. David G says Cam Ward incoming in the draft. Yeah, they're definitely drafting a quarterback next year. Eric says clean house. Mara has to suck it up and tank. Get Ben Johnson. Let old Bill Belichick be the GM and land Ward or Sanders. Vish says, hi, Pat, enough of this garbage. Mara needs to fire everyone and bring Belichick in. Evan says there's nothing to look forward to with this team at the end of the day. George says John Mara got no guts to fire somebody mid-season. Interesting. We will see, because this definitely begs something to be done. This is pathetic. All right. Let's see. The winner of the trivia question of the last time the Giants had 119 yards or fewer in a game. Let me see. We have John Ray with the correct answer. Tampa Bay, 1999. Let's see. It was 112 yards at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on September 12th, 1999. John, great job getting that question correct. John, please direct message me on Instagram at some point tonight or tomorrow. The handle there on my Instagram is PL on NFL. Direct message me an address or PO box, wherever you want it sent, John, and I will have a free bottle of the State 98 coffee sent out to you. Way to go. Thank you for participating, everybody who dropped those in. Ryan, you also said Bucks 1999. Just a minute late there, but thank you guys, and we will continue to do these every live chat. Plenty of people have already landed a bottle. So what goes around comes around. Everyone will get a chance to try. But it is a good deal. Estate98.com/Talkin Ball. You can get a special buy one, get one free offer. So you're purchasing a full month's worth of coffee for a half month's worth of the price. It's affordable. It's delicious. It's great for on the go. It's quick to make iced. It also makes hot coffee or latte. all natural specialty coffee with no sugar. I couldn't recommend it more. Also brought to you here by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily purchase this natural liquid supplement and pour it into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. Go to boomchaga.com and use the Talkin Ball 25 code here or the QR code. Place your first order, and you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. So that's important. Use the subscribe and save option. Buy a bag, get 25% off with that code or that QR code. And you don't have to say subscribed. It won't lock you in. Boomchaga.com today. Go there to start feeling the difference. Also brought to you by MyBookie. MyBookie.ag celebrating its 10th year anniversary, rolling out the red carpet for sports bettors. I went 3-0 in my Pats picks that were all over social media on Saturday and Sunday morning. If you saw that, you won money on MyBookie this football season. Go to MyBookie, use the promo code PatsPicks, get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. If you're already a MyBookie member, they have a new loyalty rewards program called MyBookie Plus. And if you sign up there, it has exclusive giveaways, promotions, cash back in your account. Make this football season a winning season with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. All right. Patrick says the free agents list is garbage. I don't want any more mediocre quarterbacks. We need to get a real quarterback and go from there. Time to use some serious draft picks. If we don't have a quarterback, this problem will continue. That's absolutely right. And I think the concern, and this is what people were saying up there in our chat earlier, is like, listen, I'll try to dial it down. So I say this like in a calm way. Brian Daboll did a great job with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Okay. That was an excellent offense. They were among the league leaders for a few years up there. And that's what got Brian Daboll this job. But outside of Josh Allen, he does not have a track record of having explosive and great offenses. And I do not see the offensive genius that's supposed to exist here. I do not see a general manager and a coach who are a quarterback away here. This team and this roster is not a quarterback away personnel-wise, and the coach is not a quarterback away from suddenly being a good offensive coach. Yes, if you improve the quarterback position, your offense can improve. But it's one thing to say we need a new quarterback. It's another to say, let's go get a Josh Allen. Everybody wants a Josh Allen. You don't just get a Josh Allen. That's the problem. Josh Allens don't grow on trees. They don't grow in NFL drafts, right? Even the names we're talking about in next year's draft. Are those guys, if they're available, how are they going to pan out? How are they going to play? How much time are they going to take to develop? Like, these are all real things, you know? No guarantees is my point. And no obvious solutions with what they have here. Listen, John Mara, Steve Tisch, they don't want to keep ripping it up. Especially John Mara doesn't want to keep ripping it up. He's been trying to be patient, and he's trying especially with this regime. But like I said earlier, John Mara, like, he said he didn't want Saquon Barkley to leave, but hey, he's caught between trying not to meddle because he gets criticized for meddling and wanting the best for his team. Listen, ultimately, you're accountable for the way your team looks at the end of the day. Lane says, cannot believe we are risking being on the hook for $23 million if Jones gets injured when everyone knows he's not the answer. Fire everyone who is responsible. Thank you for the super chats so much, guys. Really do appreciate that. Let's see. Get back in the queue here. Bombo says, seemed like a lot of long developing pass plays. Meanwhile, the line looked the worst it has all season. Saquon looked like Saquon. Wish the Giants had valued him. Ryan says, trade Ojulari and Slayton and give the team to Mike Kafka. Interesting. Barbara says she doesn't want Quinn Ewers or Carson Beck if the Giants draft a quarterback. Ken says this team is so hard to figure out. It's almost as if something in their DNA causes everything to constantly go wrong. Bombo says Saquon had more yards than the entire Giants offense. Plus, he was always a first-class act. I would have paid for that. Dave G says, honestly, I don't think we can even beat the Panthers at this point. That's the thing. I mean, this game in Germany, holy cow. What an NFL game we're giving the Germans. Bombo says Saquon, Daniel Jones, and Neighbors could have been fun to watch. Yeah, it was always about why don't you add to the offense, not replace a weapon with another one. George says, Pat, when we lose, your videos are the only positive. Straight up, real talk, no fluff or bullshit. Telling it like it is. I wish more reporters were like you. Drink Boom Chaga. George, thanks for saying that. Thanks for supporting Boom Chaga as well. Really appreciate that. And yeah, like I said, you're going to get real unfiltered, but it's based on reporting and information. That's what it is. The fact of the matter is, a large part of the time that I've been covering the Giants, a large part of the time I've been covering the Giants, they've been bad. And so there's been a lot of critical content about them. But when they're good, you praise them. You praise the players, you praise the coaches, the general managers, the plan, whatever it is. Eric says, Pat is the man. Thank you, guys. John says, Joe Shane needs to be fired immediately. Promote Brandon Brown and keep Dable and draft Cam Ward. That's interesting. Eric says, that coach's firing tweet from Pat is going to hit like crack in the 80s. Eric, that's pretty funny. John says, only the offensive line, Carm, showed up for the O-line today. Dable lost the team, and it sucks, says Alex. Todd says, I left in the middle of the fourth quarter, listened to Carl Banks and Bob Papa on the way home. Bob Papa said we need all new players. I'll tell you what. I ran into Carl Banks on the way down to the locker room. I have never seen him like this after a game. His opinion of the Giants team after this game, never seen that. Never seen it. George says, on the bright side, amazing weather at MetLife for the 2.3 quarters I stayed. Definitely got enough color to hop back on Tinder. George, lighten up the chat with some vibes. I love it. Barb says, everyone wants to trade away players for what? So we can watch them succeed with other teams while we do nothing? How about we keep the good players? Yeah, the thing is, in this situation, now it's kind of like, you know, how can John Mara and Steve Tisch look at the current management and say, hey, you're fine into next year. Why don't you just sell off some pieces? We'll lose some games and we'll draft a quarterback next year and then we'll keep going. That is not the reaction to a game like this. So in Barbara's defense, I would say that's why something like that isn't obvious. You know, you trade good players off your team and you start tanking, and we all know that's not a John Mara thing. Patrick says Joe Shane makes John Mara look like a fool. Joe Shane and the Giants operation came off Mickey Mouse at key points of Hard Knocks, and we're seeing the product on the field. Vish says, ever since Coughlin left, the Giants are losers. That's accurate for the most part. Hirsch says, what's good, Pat? Hirsch, good to see you. He says, Pat, when does the 6-year Daniel Jones experiment finally end? Well, it ended today. He benched him today. So he's saying that he's going to put him back into the game. But what are we doing here? This is a mess. This could be Brian Dable's final game. I don't know. Like George is saying, you think any firing is going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. But, you know, I should have asked about his job security again, because this is ridiculous. I mean, this is pathetic. Embarrassing. That's right. Hirsch says Cam Ward will look real good in blue. A2Z says Giants look good today. Hey, Pat. NYC says, I thought you agreed with not signing Saquon. I thought that, you know, I believe my opinion at the time was that paying Saquon Barkley whatever he wants is not the way to go, because you have to value him more. you have to value him more than what the Giants did. But if they were going to have to go up to $16 million a year and go to some absurd like wide receiver level, then I view that as, well, how are you constructing the rest of your team? Because you did need to improve the offensive line this offseason. You did need to put resources in that. But I thought the Brian Burns move, even though he's a good player, I thought the trade for that, giving up the draft pick for that and paying him what they did, that was an enormous amount of money that they invested there. That was a desperate and aggressive move. And, I think that ended up being their decision, was instead of giving Saquon the money he wanted and then pairing him with Neighbors, with Jones, and then using money to get an edge rusher who's a little bit of a lesser name than Burns, but could still help you, plus a corner in the draft. They ended up loading up on Burns, not paying Saquon, and they don't get the corner in the draft because they trade the draft pick. So I was always a person who sat there and said, I'm not anti-Saquon getting his money. And I also do see the positional value argument from Joe Shane's point of view. And we can't just go to the moon on an investment on a player like Saquon, who when he was with the New York, there were pass protection issues. He did have drop issues in the passing game at times. And there were games, obviously, when he was on this team, plenty, and even seasons, when the offense was getting bottled up, even though he was on the offense and on the team, right? So you had to take all of that into account. But there was definitely a middle ground for them to come to. And really, the Giants kind of cut off their nose to spite their face by what they declined to pay Saquon. And they didn't even give him an offer in the end, right, when he goes to Philadelphia. Obviously, we see that being behind a better offensive line in Philly, number one, first and foremost, along with other weapons around him, are putting Saquon in a better chance to succeed as well. So it was also, for his point, it was also getting out of here and getting to a new place and a new environment and surroundings that has helped him start to thrive more as well. By the way, it's so interesting. I said to Saquon at his locker today, first of all, I told him I want a rematch with him in chess because he beat me. Did I ever tell you guys this? He beat me head-to-head in chess in the Giants locker room last season. It was devastating. Honestly, it was the worst loss I've ever sustained in any competition ever. It was embarrassing. He crushed me. I have no excuses. I was not ready for him to be as good as he was. He tried to move me. Obviously, that wasn't going to work, but he got me out of sorts, and I never recovered. So I told him I want a rematch. So hopefully I get a rematch at some point. But he claims that I can have one. I don't know when it's coming. But when I talked to him at his locker, he also said that I asked him. So he said that facing the boos and kind of the nastiness that he thought might come from the crowd or whatever, he said that his trainer Ryan Flaherty really kind of centers him for moments like this. He said, he's worked with a lot of the greats. I would be dumb not to listen to him. So I focus on consistency. So I'm locked into the real stuff so that when moments like this happen and you're getting booed by however many thousands of people, you just fall back to your training. And, but I said to him, but didn't you sleep a little differently? On Saturday night, some nerves, waking up thinking I'm playing the Giants on Sunday and I'm going to show them. And he actually said, I'm in a different spot than what you guys have seen me in. He said, my mindset on that, he goes, I'm older now. I'm more mature, Pat. He said, I've got a little planner now that I got writing stuff down in. Literally, Saquon Barkley, just like you and me, has a little daily planner that he's writing things in, goals, things like that. Saquon, turning over a new leaf, kind of cleansed and renewed is how I would describe his attitude. Formula Red, thank you for checking in with the super chat. He says, I wonder why fans pay so much money to go see this awful team. I've promised myself I will not take me or my wife to a game as long as Jones is the quarterback. I think Formula Red, I was actually talking with some of the other reporters about this today because we noticed how many Eagles fans showed up at this game. There were a lot of Eagles fans at this game. Giants fans too, but a lot of a lot of Eagles fans. And we were wondering when it was going to get to the point where people stopped the show. I know some of our loyal followers on the chat have said that's already started in certain sections in the last couple of weeks. But I do think there was something to, like, they've had 2 straight primetime games here. So that was the Cowboys Thursday night, Bengals Sunday night. So now the Giants, this was their first 1 o'clock home game in a while. And so, like, this was a nice day, nice weather day, 1 o'clock game. So ticket holders, plus Saquon's coming back. Ticket holders are coming to this game, I think, regardless. They have it circled on their calendar. It's a nice day to come out, regardless of what it is, regardless of what the result is, frankly, just to be outside. But now that we're through this, we have Monday night next week at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then after that, you're talking about the Giants coming home against the Washington Commanders. I know Jaden Daniels got banged up today, but like that 1 o'clock game against the Commanders on November 3rd, that's going to be a sight to behold, that crowd. Very interested to see what that crowd's going to look like. All right, let's see. Yeah, everybody's frustrated. I'm going to skip through some comments that might have repeated what we said earlier, so no offense, but I'm reading them all. Intel says time for Joe Shane to go. Hirsch says beyond pathetic at this point. Joshua says Daniel Jones 1-14 primetime game, sub 10% win percentage is not even high school acceptable. Drip said I feel bad for Daniel Jones. Doesn't get in any trouble. Good guy. Projected 3rd rounder. Probably a great career backup, but we took him at 7. Vish says Pat just said everyone should be fired. Evan says facts. Hirsch says Shane is busy scouting QBs. Now, he was here. George says, yeah, Pat, go get hyped up. Steven says Barkley 187 yards and 6 points. Giants 119 yards and 3 points. Oh, my God. Let's see. NYOG says, Pat, Mara is going to have to hire Belichick as a consultant and give Mara his thoughts and maybe take over the building. I believe he would take on this project. That would be interesting. NYOG says Barkley ended this regime today. I agree. I believe he did as well. Kyler says Cam Ward, Malik Neighbors, Kyron Lacey, Wandy, Hyatt, and Tracy are going to be fun. Let's see. By the way, I believe my colleague Daryl Slater from NJ Advanced Media reported that Jalen Hyatt has a cracked rib. So my guess is we won't see him on the field for a while. Also, Isaiah Simmons blew out of the locker room, and I called back to him as he was walking out, and he did not break stride. So, I think this whole team's about to blow. Let's see. Michael says, oh, my God, just when we thought we hit rock bottom, this was so bad. I just hope Daniel Jones won't get hurt and we get that $22 million extra cap space. Cam Ward looked very good on Saturday. David actually disagrees, thinks Ward is not good. NYOG says Banks was making business decisions. Let's see. Hooks says, didn't get to watch the game. Sounds like I don't want to watch the replay. Thanks for your work, Pat. Hooks, that's what we would call a hate watch if you watch this game. Kyler says, let's see. I think Pat is a Giants fan now. His blood pressure is up. Chill, man. We love you. Don't have a stroke. Kyler, I appreciate your concern. Let's see. Evan says this is a pathetic, embarrassing joke that has gone on way too long, and fans are tired of it. Don says, I doubt anyone is getting fired. Tim says the Giants season is ruined. Drips says, let's go Yanks. We can all get aboard with that one. What an exciting clincher that was in the ALCS to get into the World Series there for the Yanks. Vish says Mara needs to call Bill ASAP. That's what Fran says as well. Belichick needs to turn this around. Horrendous. Yes, letting McKinney walk was also a big mistake. D-Pad says, Gino was a backup. Jerry Reese and McAdoo got fired for starting him. Tyrod also a backup. They didn't want to pay to come back, even though he played better than Jones. They did not want to pay Tyrod. That's right. Rick says, thank you, Pat. You got it. Brett says, Coach Wink. Ooh, that's interesting. Yes, very much missed inside the Giants building. Was an excellent coach while he was here. Left because did not want to coach anymore on this staff. Jim says, unforgivable, bad preseason GM decisions, backup QB, backup swing tackle, cornerbacks. All three positions should have been free agent signings. A2Z Me says, Daniel Jones loves you, Pat. Rick says, the Dable stands are worse than the Daniel Jones defenders. H5000 says, admittedly, I'm a Saquon fan, but watching Hard Knocks and Mara's comments regarding Barkley and what he did today, in my opinion, Shane is gone. Offensive line sucks. Daniel Jones haters, me sick. Drip says Daniel Jones isn't a great Giants QB. Hopefully he was a Sam Darnold type comeback on a different team. I promise you Daniel Jones will have more success on his next team, no doubt. Brett says Daniel Jones doesn't deserve this team, Pat. Neither did Saquon. No wonder he plays better away. Drip says, who would be a good candidate at coach for you, Pat? Let's see. Names I've thrown out there before. Obviously, Belichick. Ben Johnson from Detroit's a name you got to call. Bobby Slowick from Houston's a guy you have to interview. Who knows? The Brian Flores ship, I would assume, has sailed, considering he's still suing the Giants. But not sure exactly where that stands. The Belichick one is obviously the most interesting. I think you have to keep banging that drum and making those phone calls until he's not. Let's see. Let me come up with a more complete list for you here. There's Mike Vrabel is a guy who's out there, and there's a lot of Titans ties to the current Giants front office, with Ryan Cowden being a friend of Joe Shane's, who's working for the Giants right now. And so I don't know if that would be something they would try to do. That might be Joe Shane's way of trying to kind of stay on if Brian Daboll gets fired and he does not. Clint Kubiak from New Orleans is a guy whose name got hot for a little bit, but obviously New Orleans is not looking great right now at all. So, I think usually more promising and encouraging and developing kind of coaching candidates emerge as the season goes on as well. There's always like one or two guys there who kind of pop out of nowhere, who are young up-and-comers that somebody wants to steal before they end up on a division rival or somebody else's team. So that's always something to watch. But right now I think obviously Ben Johnson is kind of the most interesting one, but definitely kind of a weird situation there with how he was involved so strongly in that Washington interview process and nearly taking that job, and then ended up not going there in the end. So, and also Benny Fowler, the Super Bowl champion, former wide receiver, who is on the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard podcast on First Down with Benny Fowler on Mondays. He was telling me last week after watching the Lions against the Cowboys, he said, like, if I'm the Lions right now, I'm going to Ben Johnson and doing whatever I can to pay him whatever I want and can and whatever he'll take to make sure he stays with us in the future at offensive coordinator, because what he has going with Gibbs and Goff and all these guys on offense and with that team that he is cooking, and that, you have to keep that going as long as you can. So would Ben Johnson stay there? Because he's already stayed there once. Hirsch says Carolina will also be looking at for a quarterback. A2 says I would rather see DeVito at quarterback, not because I think he's best, but at least with him, the fans have something to root for. Local underdog. Now it's just painful on so many levels. Dave says, what did I think of Neighbors' comments after the game? Well, Ken pointed out to what his attitude came across as. I'll be honest, I was not at his locker. I talked to Daniel Jones and Deonte Banks, and then I went over into the Eagles locker room and talked to Saquon Barkley. So I was not there for Neighbors' comments. So that's one thing I don't have a beat on right now. But Ken, who was watching it, said he didn't like some of the answers in the body language. So I have to go back and listen to that. Brett says the Giants got up from their slot machine and later walked by it. They'll do it again next season. Dave says players look like they quit in the second half. Yes, they did. David disagrees. Belichick is not what we need. He says we need someone who can build a roster. Let's see. Hirsch says, do we play Carolina soon? The loser could get the first pick in the draft. Yep, 3 weeks from now in Germany. Drip says the D-line is full of people who love the game of football and will do whatever they can to play it. I mean, yeah, but they got boat race today. So, loving football, that's your job. You go out there and play hard. David says the issue is Shane and Mara's obsession with making the Daniel Jones pick work. Maybe Mara's obsession. Shane's obsession is not making Daniel Jones pick work, although he did re-sign him. They're trying to kind of bridge it to their next quarterback, but this is a train wreck. Steven says, Pat, what exactly is the difference between what the Giants offered Barkley in October that he turned down and what he got from the Eagles? That October offer was the most, right? And they never offered again. The difference primarily was several $1 million in guarantees. Don't remember the exact number of guaranteed difference. I think it was, let me look at what he got again. Fully guaranteed was 26. It might have been a difference of 4 or 3 million there in full guarantees. Ended up being the most meaningful difference. And then what really happened too is after he didn't accept that deal. And listen, there were things on Saquon's side that went wrong there too. Like if he was getting better advice, from his agent at the time, maybe he takes that deal. But the thing that was crazy about that situation was once they got to the point where the Giants had to use the franchise tag, then once the Giants used that franchise tag on Saquon Barkley, the conversations and the negotiations with him cut off. And it just became a situation of we signed Daniel Jones, you're on the tag, and you're either going to play on the tag or you're not going to play at all. And so at that point, that turned it from bad to worse. It became personal. It was already personal, but it got even more personal because it wasn't being handled in the right way. No Mets, good to see you. Because I know it's not all number 8's fault. There are a lot of things that could be better on offense, but he doesn't elevate players around him. Our backups can produce the same poor performances. Well, it was even worse when Drew Lock was in the game. Again, not trashing Drew Lock here, but I'm saying everyone who acts like Hirsch says Daniel Jones is the problem. Daniel Jones can improve here. Guys, there's no question about it. However, even though Daniel Jones can improve, one second, everybody. Sorry about that, everyone. Just need to be considerate to the great men and women who run MetLife Stadium because we're here late enough that, they're cleaning up, they're getting everything in order. And there are people here who put in their time to monitor the press box and monitor the stadium, make sure we have everything we need and support us. But they got homes to go to too. So giving them essentially a time frame of how much longer I'm going to be. And we essentially just talked about, hey, podcast is cooking with gas right now, so we're still going. But, we'll keep going as long as we can get this conversation and tie a bow on it. And then we will come right back to you early in the week with more information. And I can promise you this. Once I'm done with this Talkin Ball Postgame Live, I will be, working the phones as always, working the emails, working those sources to see what changes, if any, could be coming out of this disaster for the Giants. Brett says management was ill prepared for O-line injuries, almost a world record in sacks, and zero linemen in the draft. Zero. I know, it's insane. Drip said we need a solidified number wide receiver too. Yeah, well, add it to the list. David said, you're the man, Pat. Stay fired up for all of us suffering fans. We appreciate it. Thank you. Malcolm says Shane will be the first one to go. I bet. Brett says we are all excited to see Evan Neal next week. That should tell you something. Well, the way the Giants act, it's like they want nothing. The last thing they appear to want is Evan Neal in the field. Fish says, Pat, you're great. Don't worry about how everything looks. David says, you're the man, Pat. Stay fired up for all of us suffering Giants fans. Give Joe Shane hell. Hirsch says we need another Leonard Williams type trade at the deadline. NYOG says, Pat, this is great. Don't worry about the look. Evan says, will Darius Slayton be traded at the deadline? That could easily be one, yes. Barb says, Pat, you're doing a great job. No need for any explanation. I look forward to being a part of this. Can't get this info anywhere else. Thank you, Barb. I'm glad to hear you say that. And thanks for always being here. Let's see. John says, Malik Neighbors and Drew Phillips are the only draft hits from Joe Shane. Hirsch says Tyler Nubin, too. I like Tyler Nubin, but he still needs to show a lot more. I think his instincts on where to be positionally need to improve. That hopefully comes with being in the league longer and learning the league. But he's a competitor, works hard, wants to be better, love the kid. He's a leader, but definitely has some room to get better. Intel says, thanks for speaking the truth, Pat. So it wasn't Joe Judge's fault. Judge definitely bears fault in it. There's no question about it. I wouldn't sit here and say that he didn't do things wrong, especially at the end, the press conference, even kind of running the sneak with Jake Fromm and kind of, it was like a metaphorical middle finger to the front office for putting him in that position with the roster. Those types of things ended up really shooting himself in the foot. And were not a good look and a learning experiences for him, no doubt about it. But yes, the overall operation was set up to fail. And again, another example of somebody who was railroaded, whose reputation was railroaded when the Giants' problems went way above him. Samuel says, who is the right person to run this franchise? It's a good question, Samuel. I think it would be exciting for Belichick too, but like I said, the personnel in the organization would need to change for him to do that. Drips says accurately, Pat is cooking. As the kids say, facts. John says Nubin was a ball hawk in college, have yet to see it. The Giants, FYI, tied for the league lead in turnovers last year under Wink Martindale. This year, the Giants have exactly 0 interceptions. 0. Brett says, I like the production video quality. I don't need glitz and the other, Pat. Thanks for keeping it real, says IBH. You got it. Drip says, if we're going to fire Dable for him now so the rookie quarterback next year doesn't have to have a new coach mid-year. Let's see. John wants Ben Johnson as the coach. VF says, sure, John, you knew everything. They were going to take Jaden Daniels, but you know more. You're arguing with somebody. I got you. Macho says, damn, Pat, you didn't even sugarcoat it. Oh, man. We're coming, we're on tilt tonight. Hirsch says, I like the defense long term. Hirsch, how could you say after this game that you like the defense? Has the defense been better this season prior to today than we expected? Yes. Did they deserve credit for some of their good moments this season? Yes. They just got boat raced by the Philadelphia Eagles today. And the Eagles showed the rest of the league how to play against the Giants. Just run the ball. You can throw the ball on them too at times, yeah. You just run the ball. They can't stop the run. I don't know how you could say that, honestly, respectfully, Hirsch. I mean, you're a diehard and I love you, but I don't know how you can say that. Michael says, I was at the game today. It was painful to watch. Yikes. NYOG says, give Bill the whole building now. He can start the evaluation of the organization. Brett says, Pat's a Giants fan. Congrats, Pat. We welcome you and the misery it brings. Jim says, thanks for keeping it real and telling the truth. Tired of the ownership propaganda. Yeah, and the front office propaganda is more the thing I'm tired of lately. Brett says, my sister is free next week to call plays. Kenneth says the Giants aren't a professional franchise. Drip says, talk your shit, Pat. Brett says the punter did well. That's it. Hirsch says, we're not getting Arch Manning. He's a pipe dream, not going to happen. John says he isn't even eligible till 26, but his dad Cooper said he wants Arch to finish a 4-year degree. Intel puts it on Joe Shane. Let's see. Josh Grav says the loser of the Estate 98 trivia should get free Giants tickets. Let's see. G-Men says biggest rival Saquon return game. This game meant so much to the fans, and this team quit, whether you admit it or not. Pathetic. No doubt. By the way, how about this? How about Nick McLeod getting benched briefly for giving up a touchdown, but Deonte Banks not getting benched for quitting on a play? What are we doing? Nick McLeod eventually came back in the game, but come on. You're going to bench for merit, but not for effort? What the hell? Ken says through 7 games last year, we averaged 10.7 points per game. For 2024, we are at 14.1. If we let Dable keep his job by 2030, we will be averaging 32 points per game. Ken, love it, Ken. Love the snark. Let's see. Who would take over for Dable, Ryan says. If it was mid-season, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, you would have to hope it would be the guy with the assistant head coach title, right? Patrick says I took a nap during the game. Let's see. Unknown says you must be in your glory, Pat. Giants stink. I have no idea what that means. You think I enjoy covering bad football all the time? No, I do not. I do not. Anybody who thinks I want this team to lose, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're coming from a completely wrong place. I want to cover a Super Bowl. I want to cover a Giants run to the Super Bowl, write a book about it, be on television all the time, right? Great things happen for all those players and all those coaches and general managers. Everybody gets paid. I get more publicity, right? Everybody wins. It's great. It'd be nice. I'm awake. I like that emoji. Montana says, I just tuned in. Hi, Pat. You're in Mara's shoes. How should this miss play out? Somebody needs to pay for this on Monday morning to me. You know, I mean, I don't think this general manager or this coach belong here next season. I think today solidified that. It's just a question of whether you let it go on. I think Steve Tisch is the one I'm curious about right now. Forget John Mara for a second. We know he's upset. I need to hear from Steve Tisch. That's who I need to hear from. Johnny says, I don't think Shane gets enough blame. He doesn't. He drafted Kayvon Thibodeau in 2021 instead of Parsons. No, well, Parsons was the previous regime with Gettleman and Judge. And that was just the organization essentially taking him off the board that high in the draft. Looks like he missed with Thibodeau and Neal. Yes. Re-sign Daniel Jones. Yes. Let Saquon and Xavier McKinney walk for nothing. Yes. Big misses. No doubt. Elliot says, lay off, Pat. The content is way more important than production quality. Just listen if you're going to be judgmental. Hell yeah. Like I said, I can improve the look of it, but right now the priority as we still grow it is the content. Daniel Jones is not Josh Allen. That's right. Brett says whoever doesn't play hard every play needs to go sit down a bit. No doubt. Playing injured doesn't help either. Burns probably made his injury worse, like Andrew Thomas, Gano, Barkley, Jones, etc. Yeah, and why doesn't the training staff come under fire when guys go back on the field with injuries and get hurt? I don't understand. I just don't understand. What would we have to give up for a high top 10 draft pick? You're giving up future 1s, 2s, player as well. Let's see. J Moss says Shane and Daniel Jones need to go. Macho says, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not thrilled about any quarterback prospects in this year's draft. That's the thing. There's no guarantee. John says, thank God I have the Yankees, Knicks, and Rangers. Keeping my sanity. That's right, John. You won last week, and now another John wins this week. Another season over before Halloween, says Astro. Great way of putting it, Astro, no doubt. Montana says, let's go Mets and Knicks. Sadly, maybe 5 years. G-Men will get it right. JL says, it could be worse. Deshaun Watson could be the quarterback. Maybe Shador, says Macho. Cam throws too many bad balls for me across the field. Really bad interceptions. I'd rather take Shador. John says, Ben Johnson was coming up with creative plays for the offensive lineman, but Dable can't come up with anything for his offense. Johnny says, is Kafka as good as gone after this season? Maybe it was telling that Dorsey didn't follow Dable to the Giants. Well said there, Johnny. You are putting 2 and 2 together now. That's well said. You were correct. There is something to that. And yes, listen, Kafka tried to get out of here this past offseason. They blocked him from going to the Seattle Seahawks. So he was trying to leave, and they blocked him because they knew what it would look like if all 3 coordinators were gone and 2 of them were gone because they chose to leave. So In the Zone says, this guy wants to trash the management. That's weak, Pat. I mean, give me a break. Daniel Jones is the problem, not Dable. He simplified offense last week. Quarterback still can't execute. Yeah, you and I just disagree. I don't just want to trash management. I disagree with that point. And it's fine for you to think that. Absolutely. I mean, I guess I'm not sitting here saying, let's bring in another coach and make it work with Daniel Jones at this point. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that this team, this coach, and this GM have made enough mistakes that they are on the hook to me for the offense not functioning, the team not developing and not being disciplined, the Giants not having good, not being tightened up for quit on the field. Like, I think there's a lot happening with this team that's going wrong that is on the general manager and the head coach and not just the quarterback. Like today, for example, I think if you watch today's game and your first reaction was Daniel Jones stinks, then I don't think you know what you're watching in this game because, all due respect, he did not have a chance with his pass protection today. He just didn't. There have been other games where Daniel's played poorly, and I'm like, Daniel Jones cost him this game. Or like the Cincinnati game last week. It wasn't all on him, but Daniel Jones, that turnover in the red zone last week was a major, major, major killer. And, there are varying degrees of blame that go around each and every week and credit for when teams play well. But yes, there were plays he could have made this game where it could have helped, especially that play over the middle to Darius Slayton where he missed him. But, how could you look at this game and say that he was the biggest problem? He wasn't. Nick says, I'm tired of the Daniel Jones excuses. It's year 6. There were plays he held the ball and stared. I blame this on Shane because he thought a year 6 quarterback would become a franchise QB. Brett says, Jones goes to the Eagles. I make a blue-green Jones jersey. Hurts gets injured. Daniel Jones takes them to the playoffs. Don't walk by that old slot machine. We learned that today. Scott says, I don't believe in blowing it up, but we cannot continue to go every week and score no points. There's a problem at quarterback. Everyone can see it. They have to make a change, do something. What do you want them to do now, though? Unknown says, who cares about Jones's money? Isn't that what everybody says when talking about everybody else's money? He's just saying, like, don't get on the hook for more money for this guy next year if you can avoid it. That's all. Hooks. Daniel Jones got benched early fourth quarter. There was 11:26 to go in the fourth, and they were down 3 touchdowns. Brett says, we really blew that Commanders game. No kicker was like Andrew Thomas getting hurt last season. Yeah, but it's all part and parcel of how they operate. They're getting guys hurt in practice. They let the kicker go into the game and play. They don't have a kicker backup in case That ends up killing them. I mean, this is all management stuff. This is what I'm talking about. Is that Daniel Jones's fault that Graham Gano got hurt in practice, then was allowed to play hurt with no real backup? Ron says, what happened to running the ball? Did we really only have 3 or 4 carries in the first half? Yes. The Giants' first half numbers, I have it for you right here, rushing. So their franchise left tackle goes out, and Brian Daboll in the first half throws the ball. Daniel Jones had 19 pass attempts, and Daniel Jones also had 5 rushes. The running backs had 3 carries for 4 yards in the first half of the Giants in the first game without Andrew Thomas. Nice play calling. If you can parse Shane and Daboll, who do you think has more staying power, promise to stay, or gone as a duo? I think in general, it's more staying power for Shane, especially Giants and how they function as an organization historically at the general manager position, more stability there, and they usually give them more rope than Daboll. But I think considering the Saquon Barkley decision and the amount of mistakes and issues that this team and this roster has, I do think that Shane and Daboll are both in trouble, in my opinion. Intel says, I've been telling Carl Banks this for 6 years about the Giants. Just rebuild the freaking team. Steven said on the broadcast, Carl was talking about how when Daniel Jones scrambled, the wide receivers just stood there not moving to get open. Did you notice that? That's on coaching. No, absolutely. Jester says, can we please win a game? Adam says the GM had a great draft. Really? Hard to say what will fix this team. Afraid of the team picking a quarterback in a weak draft and having the same problems for 5 more years. I don't know how you could say the general manager had a great draft this year. Some of the players in the draft look promising, but I think it's too early to say it's a great draft. I think Nubin is a player who needs to continue to improve. Drew Phillips, I like. Tyrone Tracy, I like. Neighbors is obviously extremely talented. That's been a little rocky recently, health-wise. We'll see where that goes. Today was some of the not finishing some of the routes, a little bit concerning there. Theo Johnson, I don't think is the player that they wanted him to be, needed him to be, though, again, a rookie still developing. That's still going that way. Brett says, I blame the black cat from years ago and coaching management, actually. Drip's favorite prospect coming out of the draft, the quarterback. I haven't studied them. I haven't studied them enough to be able to give you like an exact direction. Ken says, don't forget Mara's Bono to Bozo comment 2 years ago. No doubt. Well said, Ken. Unknown says, stand by your convictions, Pat. The Giants needed to work on the team instead of signing Barkley. You sound weaselly. Weaselly. Interesting. Unknown, I would say this. I don't mind disagreements. I do not love, though, people making it personal. So don't make it personal. Don't call names. Come on. Why do you do that? And here's the thing. I do stand by my convictions. They should have found a way to keep Saquon Barkley at a price that worked for both and add a weapon or add a quarterback instead of replacing him with another weapon. They traded a second-round pick in the Burns trade. Adam says the team is not prepared most weeks. That's the honest truth. I think the coach is failing the GM if I had to make a choice. Ken says we just have to hope the Steelers destroy the Jets tonight and Rodgers gets hurt to refocus the negativity back on them. Brett says Jones was benched by the fans, my quarterback. And like I said, Saquon said he does not love all the boos for Daniel because Daniel cares. Johnny says whoever approved the final cut of Hard Knocks was secretly trying to expose the deficient personnel in this whole organization. Fran says we need a proven head coach, not coordinators. Yeah, Ken cites all the records with Saquon. He says we needed more of that. No, listen, maybe it was best for both sides to move on, but right now Saquon Barkley is benefiting from moving on. The Giants are not benefiting from his absence. Intel dropping 2 super chats. What's up? Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate that. He says they should have drafted a quarterback. Yeah, no, listen, I go back to Joe Shane's son saying, might as well try to win. You're only going to have this job once. Let's see. Ray says he'll believe it when he sees it that Shane would fire his buddy Dable. Thomas says Brandon Brown has had a good reputation as a promising future GM. Your thoughts? I think Brown's been involved in a lot of what's gone wrong here. He still has more to prove to me. Kenneth says, Pat, if it was up to you, how would you improve the line? Anyone you name has to actually be available. Thank you. You mean for this season? You're not getting, like you saw when they signed Chris Hubbard from the Niners practice squad there. Teams aren't getting rid of good tackles right now. So anyone who comes in is a journeyman and somebody who's flawed. So you're not, no. Yeah, there's no easy solution now. It's too late for that. And I guess one of the terrible teams, can you get a tackle off of them because they're completely rebuilding? Look in the bottom of the standings and see if they would get rid of somebody. But right now the Giants season is slipping completely out of control. Would they be investing a premium resource in an offensive tackle in a trade anyway like that immediately? I guess to get rid of the draft pick for the next GM because they're trying to prevent to be fired. But Kenneth, I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you there because right now on the trading block, there's nobody who stands out like a young, up-and-coming, strong, tackle that someone's going to trade to you now. That's tough to get. It's just tough to get. It's an off-season thing that you take care of. Macho says, damn, I thought you got breaking news of a firing. Not yet, anyway. Aziki says he's not mad about Barkley at all. He deserves success. Jones has sapped the will to win out of this team. I think if you only blame Daniel Jones, listen, I'm right there with you that Daniel's got to play way better and that they have to move on eventually because we already know the team was trying to move on in the draft, right? So we all know that that's where it's going. It's where it was already going and all that. I just take offense to the fact that people saying it's only him. It's not only him. James says we are the only fan base that will not blame the $40 million quarterback. Saquon had more yards than both of our quarterbacks today. Crazy says Giants fire sale. Ken says, Pat, pull together a Zoom roundtable with Duggan, Stapleton, and Jordan. Would be must watch. See if we can get more people involved. That sounds good. George says, hey, Pat, what do you really think is going to happen? John Mara tries not to do stuff in season. I do expect some people to be talking after this game, though, like as far as talking to, me, talking to media, and definitely some things coming out of the Giants organization. I don't know how somebody doesn't lose their job. Somebody doesn't lose their job after a game like this. Matt says we should start DeVito. Danny says Jones has been an albatross on this team since being overdrafted. Patrick says if they do fire Dable, I think we should go for Ben Johnson. Joel says, Pat, you would have thought the defense would not allow Barkley to kill them in the run game, and it just made this whole game that much worse, no doubt. Tank points out Mara is furious about Barkley leaving. That's important here. We weren't going to win many games with Barkley, but Mara doesn't know this. He thinks 9 wins is a huge success. Good context there, Tank, to explain how it works here. Let's see. We got some Mike Vrabel fans in the house. Scorpio says Dable hasn't impressed him. Aziki wants to know if Dable's play calling is because Jones' inability to execute more complex plays limit the plays he can call. I asked Brian Dable that today, basically. I said, does Daniel Jones put limitations on what your offense can be? And he said no. But I do believe he coaches to the limitations of his quarterback. But also your job is to, like, in 2022, he supposedly unlocked him. And what, now he's limited by him? I don't get it. Macho wants to know what free agents in the secondary are available next year, defensive backs wise. Let me see. That's defensive back, free agency. So you're talking about corners, I think. Looks like Michael Jackson, Diamador, Lenore, Paulson Adebo, Benjamin St. Just, Brandon Stevens, Rasul Douglas, Dante Jackson, Carlton Davis, Nate Hobbs, Christian Fulton, some of the names. Stephon Gilmore, I believe, would again be one, et cetera, et cetera. Tommy says health and wealth. What's up, Tommy? To all, bring Bill back home, he says. Shaking my head, must allow this defense to have a chance. Sad to see. Directed says, Pat, I was at the stadium today, and I can say I will never waste my money on this franchise again. Not until they figure out a way to be a team. Last decade has been a disgrace. Burns definitely is a player to watch, Mike, as far as a guy who might end up not playing next week. Severely limited today and banged up with that groin. We'll see. Kevin says, how did Hyatt crack a rib from the bench? I believe on one of his few snaps he got hurt. Let's see. Trishot said DJ had to go. Visago says, do you think Mara would draft Shador based on maturity, drama, and his dad? I do not. Paul says, my 11-year-old son's lacrosse tournament is more enjoyable than the Giants. Has to be. Michael says, Deontay Banks giving up on plays, bench him. Dable's play calling was atrocious. Run the ball. Don't even get me started on Jones. I'm done with this team for the year. Thanks, Pat. You got it, Michael. Thank you. Sim to the draft says optimal. Juan says Daniel Jones and the wide receivers need to start using resin. Too many drops. Fasho says, why fire Dable? The team doesn't want to play for DJ. They obviously fought for Brian. I don't know how you could say that this team fought today in any way. They got worked. Trash, that's right. If nobody wanted to trade up last year, why would they do it next year with this QB talent in next year's draft? Is it possible Kafka was the one coming up with the weekly game plans in 22, waiting to see Dable's genius? Interesting theory there, Bombo. Is Carm Bazzillo hype over now? Will Carm survive a head coaching firing? That is a great question. Guys, thank you everybody for being here. This has been an amazing post-game chat. I got fired up early. I'm still fired up. Looking to do more reporting and bring more news and insight to you guys on all my channels. P. Leonard, NYDN on Twitter or X, and on every other channel, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Threads. I'm PL on NFL. This has been the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard post-game live podcast from MetLife Stadium after Giants-Eagles Saquon Barkley's return. Please go check out my post-game story with an exclusive interview with Saquon Barkley in the Giants visitors locker room. Was great to see him. He's definitely in a good place. Obviously, discouraging Giants locker room. Eastford is burning, so to speak. We are here on the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard live podcast on the Believe Network and on PL on NFL YouTube channel, sponsored by MyBookie.ag, rolling out the red carpet for sports bettors this year. 3-0 this week on my Pat's picks, which I post every week on social media. Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown prop hit as well. We do those Giants sprinkles every week, so bets that you can hit big on Giants games as well as going around the league. Use my promo code Pat's Picks, PATS, on the link in all my social media profiles. You'll get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, plus a 100% deposit on $50 or more, or your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. Easy for me to say. So go to the link, Pat's Picks, 100% match on your deposit. And if you're already a member, go to MyBookie Plus as the loyalty rewards program. You get a lot, cash back, promotions, giveaways, etc., exclusivity, and make sure you make this football season a winning season with MyBookie and with Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. Personally, I felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to reduce inflammation and improve immune and heart health and lower cholesterol with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. BoomChaga.com right here. Go to BoomChaga.com today. Use the Talkin Ball 25 code or that QR code. You'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs only $30. BoomChaga.com. Start feeling the difference. And by Estate 98 Estate 98 coffee, I should say, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Takes 10 seconds to make an Estate 98 iced coffee. It's delicious. Go to estate98.com/Talkin Ball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. Joey B, great to see you. We're just wrapping up. He said, just woke up from a flight and drove home. What a trash game. This team is bad, historically bad. We need a change and a spark at quarterback or coach. I don't know. Something needs to change or happen. Any ideas? I think someone's got to pay for this game, Joey, and I'm going to do the reporting now. No Mets says, Pat, thanks for the coverage. Much appreciated. Team stinks. What's new? I know. Thank you, No Mets, for dropping that support and that super chat. Patrick says, thanks again for the great show and the passion today. This team needs a reboot, no doubt. No doubt. George says, Pat, will you be on tomorrow? You know what? Maybe we will do a live chat tomorrow night. I'll keep you guys updated on social media, whether we're going to go live tomorrow night, Talking Ball Live. We'll see how much news there is tomorrow. If there is news, if there's a firing, if there's a huge fallout from this, I would have to think we would go live, but we will see. There's a lot of moving parts, but we will definitely do a Talking Ball Live in the next couple days coming up on the YouTube channel. So stay tuned. Best way to see my updates of when we're going live next is on my X account or Twitter on PLeonardNYDN or on my Threads account, PL on NFL. Joey B agrees someone's going to get fired. Don't know the plans yet for Pittsburgh, Joey B, but yes, I am getting in Sunday night into Pittsburgh. So going to try to organize a meetup for anybody who is there. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. No Mets, thanks for that last super chat. Thanks to Candyman, Joel, Chris, John, D-Kit, T-Rex, Elias, Chris, Daniel, D-Kit, Bombo, Scorpio, Joel, Lou, Patrick again, Daniel, Patrick, Lane, Formula. Let's see. Intel dropped in some shekels and no Mets. And remember, guys, thank you, for all the super chats. Thank you for all the questions and for the views. Thank you for participating. All of your comments and questions and insights, really valuable. I learn as much from you guys as you learn from me on these. Remember, the best way to support the channel, MyBookie, open an account there. Use the Pat's Picks promo code. Boom Chaga, use Talking Ball 25. Try it out. And Estate 98 Coffee, estate98.com/Talking Ball. Go there. Use that buy one, get one free deal. Joey B says, I'm going to have to watch this one over. That's dangerous. George says, let's go Yankees. Let's end on the happy note. Let's go Yankees. Thank you guys for being here. Sorry about the result today, but thanks for being with me. This is a safe space. I'm Talking Ball Live with Pat Leonard. See you next time.